Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, this is the broadcast for October the 24th in the year of our Lord 2025, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com with me today. We're going to talk about the weekly Q&As on the Constitution that he has every Thursday here in a little bit. But in the meantime, I got to talk about Candace Owens. There's a big debate on the internet now about what she said and or what she meant. I'm not here to attack Candace. If she wants to come on the show, I'd love to have her. Love to let her speak for herself. I'm not picking sides because I don't really know exactly what to think about this. But Candace Owens, they say, hits a new low and accuses Trump of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Dmitri Bolt over at townhall.com has the piece. Well, it's hard to even know how to respond to this because did she really call for saying, hey, Trump assassinated Charlie Kirk? Well, that's not really what she said. The problem is, you know, when you write your own headline, if you don't quote it exactly, are you fairly representing it? That's what I'm not sure about at this point, because to me, it's not a far stretch, but yet at the same time, she didn't really say that. Here's Candace, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. I don't know what happened. Our video screwed up. Forget it. Anyway, the bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, so she made some statements. I'm not comfortable with the statements that she made really at all. But she kind of rambled a little bit. She's like, hey, they took care of Charlie. That's right. You know, when you get famous and popular and can make a difference, they kind of take care of you. And then she kind of goes into this idea that, hey, if they name, a road after you, or if they name something after you and this and that, then it's a surefire sign that they took you out. And so she kind of points at the feds, and it's a little bit of a meandering comment that's hard to interpret at the end, Doctor.
I'm unaware of what she actually said. And unfortunately, that audio didn't come through for me anyway, but I
heard music and then it just went away, so I'm not sure what happened.
I will say, I'm kind of shooting in the dark. Ooh, that's a bad phraseology. But at any rate, I'm absolutely confident that what we are being told by the official narrative is false. And I could go to multiple different ways of approaching that to try and demonstrate that I believe that we are being told a pack of lies. And that's the nicest thing I can say about what actually happened. And if you just want to go look at the ballistics, I mean, I had probably 20,000 trigger pulls before I was 18, and I did a lot of shooting. And I guarantee that the ballistics don't match the story that we're being told as the official story. The text that came between the boy and his lover, and this stuff about running across the roof, and all of the nonsense that we're being told, I believe they're trying to build a case that says we've got an open and shut case. We're going to go for the death penalty. And if this Tyler Robinson kid had half a brain, he'd plead guilty. So we'd take the death penalty off the table and we'll put him in jail forever. Done and done. And there's no in-court expose of anything, because expert witnesses absolutely could completely eviscerate what we're being told. And so I honestly don't know what Candace said, and I don't know how the inference was that somehow Trump was involved in making things bad for him. But the fact of the matter is, there's an awful lot of, shall we say, passion going across all airwaves now. Podcasts are just afire with this. So I'd like to hear what was really meant, and let's take a look at it.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It was kind of a meandering statement, and she kind of just said things like, well, you just know. She said Charlie Kirk has given his life to Trump and to politics. And it was a huge betrayal, she says. And I agree with, some of that. But the question is by who and et cetera, right? It started with her clip being circulated online and many people slamming Owens for her latest theory to be directed at the Trump administration. The problem is the statements that everybody's making about this aren't really quoting her. Okay? So they're calling her a lunatic. They're saying she says she just knows. I don't want to pick sides. All I want to do is say this. Bring the receipts. Owens, what evidence do you have? I'm not against you or for you on this. I'm just saying if you're going to make claims that kind of allude to that, and she certainly alluded to that, kind of. She did not say that, though. And so these headlines in my mind are misleading, to say the least. And so I don't know where to go with this, except for what we need is a great dose of truth. Let Candace speak for herself. If she kind of said something that appeared to be that way, but that's not what she intended, let her clarify. Okay, we don't want to take advantage of someone because of their words. We don't want to manipulate that, they said that, but they didn't mean this, or give her a chance to clarify it. Right? So we need to be really careful here, Doctor.
Well, yeah, but she has a platform. She could, unravel or peel away or whatever needs to be done. She could. I mean, it's not like somebody's put a gag on her and said, "Oh, we're not going to let her talk for herself." And I think that, it's kind of like if you get accused, Sam, and I'm pretty confident would take advantage of whatever platform you had to be able to straighten the record out. And I say, speak up, Candace. Tell us what you meant.
I'd be very well, listen. So here's what she kind of said. I've got a little bit in front of me now, and I didn't have it because I thought she was going to speak for herself on the video, but I found it now, and I apologize for not having the backup ready. But she said, hey, he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics, and they betrayed him. So you name a holiday after somebody. She says, so here's a holiday. What's up with them giving somebody a holiday after they kill them? Yeah, they definitely killed you. There's no question they killed you if you have a holiday named after you. Now, so this is what I mean by it's kind of meandering. She didn't directly kill the administration, but she did talk about the feds, and it's very, very strange. But I don't think that we should take advantage of her because of her words. If she didn't mean it to be exactly that way, then, anyway, it's very interesting to me, right? So I don't know where we go with that thing.
Yeah, correlation and causation and all this kind of stuff. But she's a big girl. She can talk for herself, and I think she ought to. And and maybe it's all good for ratings, and people are going to listen to her more. But because there's some kind of hyperbole going on that's spinning out of control, and some people thrive on that kind of stuff. Rush Limbaugh, he had a very famous program for a long time, and every time I'd have a little, shall we say, heartburn about some of the stuff he was doing, people would say, Bradley, quit worrying about it. It's entertainment. It's entertainment. And I'd say, but truth should prevail in every instance and everything. And so, you might want ratings and everything like that, but for me, I think the entertainment factor has to be down the list a little bit, but that's how he makes his big bucks. And maybe that's how she makes her big bucks.
Well, and that could be true, but I think she's being unfairly represented here. I don't think she accused Trump at all. I do think she said that, hey, the federal government might be involved. And why would she be saying that kind of stuff? Because now they're trying to put a gag order on her, right?
Well, look, what they have done every step of the way is to destroy evidence. I mean,
right.
They from the very get-go, they wanted to tie this up in a nice little package with a little bow on it and say, we've got all the stuff we need. Let's all go home and wait for the trial to start. And good forensics needs far more than the 30 hours that they took to put this case together. And so there's a lot more to the story, and she may know some of the backstory. But the fact of the matter is that we have to, as a listening public, have to try and interpret. And if it were me, I would try and bring more clarity to the issue. That's what I would do.
And if it were me, what I would do is I'd let Candace speak for herself.
Right.
And the problem is that if you let the mainstream press do it, they'll just have baited questions that try to put around the defensive and manipulate things. And so they won't be honest in their questioning. Here's how I would do it. I would say, hey, Candace, you know what? There's all these weird things out there on the internet. I don't know what's what about this thing. I did hear some of your clip, and you referred to, hey, they name a road after you, it means they probably killed you, the kind of thing. But look, what did you really say? What did you actually intend and mean? And what do you really believe? And I'll write a headline to the best of my ability after you tell me and see if I get it right.
Well, again, she has a microphone. She doesn't even need you to ask the questions. She
doesn't. I'm just offering in the media to be a neutral party and say, what's the truth? Hang tight, Liberty Roundtable Live.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, by having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So there's just strange stuff going on everywhere. And I'd love Candace to be able to speak for herself. Dr. Bradley's exactly right. They don't need me for this. I'm just kind of saying, look, we need people that'll be honest. Why are we trying to attack Candace or, bait Candace or manipulate what Candace said? Why don't we be honest with ourselves and just say, hey, there seems to be confusion about what was said here. A lot of people believe you hit a new low. A lot of people are wondering, did you accuse Trump of assassinating Kirk? And let her say, no, I didn't. Or no, that's not my intention. Or yes. Let her first just lay down what she's saying. And then if she says yes, or alludes to the feds did it, then the question is, Candace, can you bring the receipts? Isn't that fair, Doctor?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm all for, you talk about due process in the court system. And in a way, this is due process in the media world. People get a chance to give and take and exchange and all that kind of stuff. That's what this whole new media is all about. I mean, that's what, Charlie Kirk was about. He was exchanging ideas with people that had a different opinion even. I mean, you and me be on the same page in so many things, but we can talk it through. We don't have to take a pre-canned answer with anything like they used to do with Walter Cronkite or Dan Blather, or rather, some Freudian slips, it's kind of like Saddam Hussein. Anyway,
there you go. Yeah.
But at any rate, yeah, we can have exchanges, and it's done in a public setting. The founding fathers met in taverns or on in a church or maybe sitting on a park bench. I don't know, but they exchanged ideas. And I think that what we got out of that was just a miracle of the ages. And I think it happened under the inspiration of God. I mean, I always take it back to that because I'm absolutely convinced that the hand of God has been on liberty since the beginning, before the beginning, even, And if you go read in the 4th chapter of Luke, by the way, you find out why the Savior, he introduced himself to his hometown, telling them why he was there, and it's to liberate the captives. We're all captives in many ways in today's society because we've been told so many falsehoods. I mean, that book, everything I was ever told is a lie. It's largely true because in my lifetime, the big major hinge points have been flat out lies.
And the reality is, what would life be like had we had the truth at given junctures, at pivot points, at crossroads, or whatever word you want to use? I mean, it could be so different indeed. One of those is COVID. And sadly, we're finding out more of the truth. You remember our dear friend Thomas Haviland? He's the guy that did all the research on the COVID blood clots and what are embalming experts and funeral homes and this kind of stuff. Morticians seeing related to this. He now highlights another survey by Rasmussen, which is kind of interesting. Here's what Americans think about the COVID vaccines / hospital protocols is the headline. It's a fall 2025 Rasmussen poll of what everybody thinks 5 years later about, one, what, how valuable the COVID shots are, two, what the hospital look like. What surprises us about this thing is almost as many Democrats have lost faith in our medical system, just like Republicans. Here's the video, then we'll talk about it.
All of the researchers polling on COVID vaccines were just chasing dollars. Doctors are trained and incentivized to chase numbers instead of outcomes. Yeah. I mean, it goes on. It's a really great thread, but let's get to the polling. And before we do, I want to make a case to please go to RasmussenReports.com. We almost went out of business because of our COVID polling, and we did it only because it was the right thing to do, and we did it for you. And even now, even with this new polling, you'd think that there would be a lot of people interested in it. Maybe RFK Jr., Nicole Shanahan, maybe people in the MAHA movement, maybe people in the administration, HHS, NIH, maybe some of the other people, the COVID influencers. We put this out, and very, 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 very few people cared, took note, signal boosted it at all. And we've done a lot of COVID polling, but really only 7 or 8 question sets over the span of 4 years. I mean, it's not like it comes out every day. And this is, again, a novel question set. Nobody has asked this.
Hey, everybody, it's Tony Robbins. Look,
All right, is that a commercial we can skip and continue?
Tony Robbins is definitely a commercial. Whether it's one you can skip or not is beyond me.
Yeah, I need to know.
I heard years ago that I never forgot, and it's that stress comes from making things.
And so I'm afraid that people are looking in the rearview mirror and watching COVID and all of the bad things that came along with it fade into the horizon. And I don't think we can allow that. I think we need to restore trust in our regulators, in the healthcare industry and insurance, because right now, this is one of the things that is increasing the temperature of the pot of water that the frog is currently close to boiling in. Now, just a quick recap of the most important hits. The first thing we found in the fall of 2022 is that, as far as I know, everybody was talking about the VAERS database. As far as I know, nobody had questioned Americans about whether they had a side effect from the vaccine or not. We found that 41% said they had at least a minor side effect. 7% of those said they had a major side effect. And I believe the math worked out to something like 12 million Americans with a major side effect. That's pretty bad. And then we asked the question, do you know somebody personally that you believe died from the COVID vaccine? The number came back 28%. We've asked that a couple of times. It wasn't a fluke. Every single time it's been between 24 and 28%. Basically, 1 in 4 Americans personally know somebody that they think the vaccine killed. Then we asked, how likely is it that the vaccine is causing a significant number of unexplained deaths? 48%, almost half of America. And these things weren't driven all by Republicans. There is a bipartisan signal. Democrats are almost as much as Republicans, not as much, but close, and independents too, because we're talking about not something that's political. It's observation. They got a vaccine, then something happened, and now, yes, I'm making that causal connection. Then we asked, has somebody in your family died from the COVID virus? 11% of America said yes. Then we asked, has somebody in your household died that you believe death was caused by side effects of the COVID vaccine? 10% yes. So roughly an equal number of Americans say they know somebody that died from the virus as say they know somebody who died from the COVID vaccine side effects. And then there's this one. This one is wild. This is just from recently, just like a month ago, month and a half. How likely is it that side effects of the COVID-19 vaccines have caused a significant number of unexplained deaths? Now, we had 48 before, and we tested it a couple times and still got high 40s. That was American adults. This is U.S. likely voters. So these are the people paying attention to the news and voting for politicians. And here, 56% say it's at least somewhat likely, 32% very likely, only 17% say not at all likely, 25% say not likely. And we'll look at the party signals just to give you an idea. This is pretty representative of the stuff that we found time and time again. 46% of Democrats say likely. 70% of Republicans now, Republican Party. All of you people who are backed by the pharmaceutical industry, your voters, almost all, when they go to vote for you, are holding their nose. A lot of them assume that you're taking this money. A lot of the news they consume is supported by advertisers from this industry, and yet they believe a significant number of deaths are being caused by a product put out by this industry.
All right, there you have it. We don't need to go on forever. It's pretty long, but I wanted to, and I normally don't even play videos that long, but the reason that I did is because the takeaways are pretty interesting. Americans realize, Republican and Democrat alike, both sides of the aisle, they realize we've been snookered. It was all for filthy lucre. It was all lies. There's no evidence. Now people believe that, hey, people are sick and getting killed from COVID shots and vaccines. And I mean, the truth is out there now, Doctor. The problem is we lack any ability to do anything about it and put criminals in jail. We should have Nuremberg-like trials on this stuff, but nothing's going to happen. No one's going to take action. They're going to fight over whether we should fund the government or not, right?
You know, those, I mean, absolutely devastating. This is horrifically bad. If people had two brain cells to rub together or more than that, apparently many people don't have two brain cells to rub together, but this is a devastating report that ought to be front page above the fold kind of headlines in the old newspaper vernacular, you know, that we can't let this go into the memory bin. I mean, down the memory hole. I mean, the old 1984, you know, Ministry of Truth stuff. I am absolutely appalled. And what we still continue to see is, you know, you walk into some big box store that's got a pharmacy in the store, and it's get your shots here kind of thing. And I get pushback from people that say, oh, everybody's just telling tales. No, this kind of thing has just got to be brought forth, and we can't forget and let it happen again. We have, you know, Bill Gates out there saying, oh, yeah, we'll get their attention if we have another pandemic or something like that. We'll make sure that it sinks in. It's going to be the next round that, you know, they're using it to devastate every aspect of everything you cherish, and it hasn't gone away. We can't let this just settle down. It's a crime, a criminal activity.
Amen to that, but it does surprise me a little bit that almost as many Democrats have lost faith in our medical system as have Republicans. Bobby Kennedy standing tall on a lot of this, and good for him. But unless I see prosecutions for the criminal lies that were told and the abuse and the loss of liberty we all suffered, unless there's accountability, none of it impresses me. That's just my opinion. You've got to stop them, or else what's to stop them from doing it again? They seem to be above the law, and that needs to stop. All right, I'm Sam Bushman, Dr. Scott Bradley with me, freedomsrisingsun.com. Back in seconds on Liberty Roundtable Live.
Pursuing liberty, using the Constitution as our guide. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Making good on his pledge of no refuge or forgiveness, only justice for narco-terrorists, War Secretary Hegseth says another suspected drug-running boat has been blasted from the water in the Caribbean. This one, 6 people on board, said to have been operated by Tren de Aragua. President Trump strikes an optimistic note ahead of his upcoming talks with his Chinese counterpart.
The two leaders will be meeting soon at a regional summit in South Korea, and President Trump predicts a successful trade outcome.
I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China.
In particular, the president wants China to buy more soybeans from American farmers. He has threatened massive tariffs on Chinese imports if a deal isn't reached. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Day 24 of the government shutdown. Senate Democrats have blocked a GOP measure would have guaranteed pay for essential federal workers and the troops during the remainder of the shutdown. If you have some nagging doubts about gambling, you're not alone.
As sports betting expands, polling suggests Americans have become increasingly critical of its role in U.S. society and sports, although they're more tolerant of legal betting for professional sports. A recent Pew Research Center poll found about 43% of U.S. adults say the fact that sports betting is now legal in much of the country is a bad thing for society and sports. That's up from about 34% who said so in July of 2022. Bob Agnew reporting.
Social Security recipients will get a 2.8% cost of living boost next year. It's an average of $56 per month. The newly released September Consumer Price Index shows inflation continuing to cool, setting the stage for another likely Fed interest rate cut. And on Wall Street, the Dow is up 394 points, the NASDAQ ahead 231 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-583-0141.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com. All right, they say inflation is up to almost 3% again. Trump really trying to fight inflation. Gold and silver through the roof right now, ladies and gentlemen. And very difficult economic times. They say interest rates have dropped for home interest rates to the lowest. Mortgage rates, the lowest they've been in a year. So, there's some good signs and some bad signs all mixed together. But now Donald Trump says, hey, he's predicting $2 gas very soon. He says it might even go lower. I don't know really how to respond to that. Here's President Trump.
Down. I think you're going to see $2 gasoline very soon. I see that it's $2.50 in a lot of places, $2.50. We were heading to $5, $6, and $7. If Biden didn't go back to my policy toward the end, you would have seen. But he didn't go back to the full policy, and he missed the most important thing. So we were up to, we were way up. I think you're going to see $2 gasoline. We couldn't even break that number. That's a big difference. The only cost that's really up is beef, and the fake news only wants to talk about beef. And what I did is I made it possible for those people to survive. They're incredible people. But they were being decimated by other countries, and I didn't want that to happen.
There you have it. Dr. Bradley, you want to respond to this?
Man, I'm holding my breath. I don't know if I can hold it that long for $2 a gallon fuel. In my own community, I kind of track the diesel fuel costs pretty carefully because that's what I put in my truck. I have never, ever, at any time in all of my born days, I don't know if that's a number you can put a good figure to, I have never seen diesel fuel higher than it is right now in my community. It's absolutely astounding to me. And I just say, wow, 6 months ago, it was much lower. And so I don't know. I don't know where he's getting his data. It's astounding. And my wife and I, when we go grocery shopping, it's an outing, you get a chance to be with your wife. Everything we look at, everything's $10 now, it seems like, almost any package, it's right around $10.
Well, when silver's $50 and gold's over 4,000, what do you expect, Doctor?
Well, see, that's the thing. Fuel is a tangible asset, just like gold or silver is. Yep. Okay. I kind of track, and it's maybe an anomaly in my life. I like to check regularly the spot price of silver, the spot price of gold, and crude oil prices, which seems like a really weird thing to look at, but it's just me. Okay. And honestly, I just, if your gold and silver is at all-time highs, that's an indicator of the confidence in the dollar. And it's like, I tell people, what? You bought silver at $21 an ounce, and now it's bumping up against 50. You didn't make money on that. Still, silver is still silver. It's only what silver has always been for thousands of years. But what it means is that the purchasing power of the dollar has just tanked.
Yeah, it used to be $1 for 1 ounce of silver. Now it's $50. So you've been fleeced 50 times, right?
Exactly. And we can get a big, long discussion. And I know you and I'd have a fun discussion with the Federal Reserve and what they've done to our economy. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody bought at 21, as someone I was just talking to yesterday, and it's nearly 50 now, that doesn't mean you made a huge increase in your funds. All you did was lose the purchasing power of the dollar. Gold or silver is still gold or silver, And yeah, there's little fluctuations.
Like they say, you could buy two. Let's see, what was it? You could buy. How many loaves of bread was it? You could buy a certain amount of loaves of bread for a gold piece. 200 loaves of bread. Well, the gold piece, right?
I don't know what gold. You know what? I remember when I was 4 years old, my mom would send me to the grocery store. It's really weird to think your mom gave you. She'd wrap coins in a handkerchief and tie a knot because she knew I'd lose them out of my pocket. I'd go over and I'd buy a dozen eggs, a quart of milk, and a pound of butter, and I'd bring change home. And that was a long time ago, I admit. But the fact of the matter is, we have just decimated our economy with our fiscal policy and the Keynesians and all of their nonsense that everything's been from, everything from 1913 and the bankers and the Federal Reserve and these people have absolutely gutted economically our country. And I'm just waiting for, if gasoline, or I hope diesel, comes down to $2 a gallon, man alive, I'll take notice. I guarantee, but I'm not finding that. I just am not. I don't.
Well, and the interesting thing about this is that they then say things are just going to be so awesome. You're going to have tons of money in your pocket, and it would help people if gas was $2 a gallon for sure. But that's not the only issue. The reason I think Trump thinks he can predict that it'll be $2 a gallon is he's opening up some Alaska for drilling, and he kind of thinks that will kind of make the difference. And whether it'll have as much effect in the real world as he hopes, don't know yet. Last time he basically opened things up for drilling, I guess there was no bids for some of it because it's just too hard to get to and too hard to pump oil out of these places. And the cost is, exorbitant and stuff like that. So, I hope he's right. But what I really hope is we can get inflation under control. The problem is, unless you go back to honest money, you'll never really get inflation under control, doctor. You just got to manipulate it and hide it because it's always ever present in a fiat system.
Oh, yeah. The fiat money is just basically money they declared had value, but it doesn't. And they say the full faith and credit of the United States. Well, that gives you a lot of confidence nowadays. But the fact of the matter is they say they declare, but in the old days, they had a tangible asset that was associated with that. The Coinage Act of 1792, it defined exactly what a dollar was. It said, this is a dollar. 371 and a quarter grains. And that was tied back to the grain of food. You took a grain of wheat or a grain of barley, and that was the origin of the grain system. But at any rate, no, we're nibbling around the edges, and we're going into phony baloney money. We talked about in the first hour about the this digital currency thing. It's whatever they say it is, basically. You got to go mine it with a computer. What? And then you go to the digital currency for central banks. Holy cow. Everything's a manipulation.
They're manipulating it till the cows come home. But if gold is $4,000, you could get 200 loaves of bread, right? And you always have been able to do that, right? Or a good fine suit, a hand-tailored suit for an ounce of gold. That's easily done. And so the problem is these things are manipulated till the cows come home. Quick question for you, doctor. Do you think that God is using Charlie Kirk's assassination to accomplish his greater plan?
I think God takes everything that we seem to dish on ourselves and can use it to the benefit of what we should all be achieving. Now, we may all be going to hell in a handbasket because of our morality or because of our stupidity in pursuing false narratives and all those kind of things. But I think he can use anything to his benefit because he's all wise and all knowing. And if we get really stupid, he can do anything from hurricanes to earthquakes to melting the economy down, to bringing war and pestilence and famine, or to blessing you and your household. So I'm not going to say that, no, God can't use that. I fully believe that God has a way of turning all things to his value if we're wise enough to listen. And that isn't always just hearing it with our ears. It might be hearing it with our hearts.
So the answer is you're saying yes.
I believe so.
that God can use all kind of things, good and bad things, to further his purposes. And I think he is accomplishing his greater plan with Charlie Kirk. A lot of people are going to church now. TPUSA spokesman Andrew Kolvet basically told Fox News that I guess 4,000 new churches have joined in this vision of Charlie Kirk's, raising the total number of churches that are part of TPUSA now to 8,000 churches. Additionally, they say TPUSA has seen 200,000 new Christians become involved. Its social media channels saw an incredible uptick of 1,000% of what they call followers, viewers, and streamers. We've seen almost 1,000% growth across all social media platforms. Pretty impressive, Doctor.
Well, and honestly, and this is another deep topic that we don't have time to get into, but as the Zionists pulled away from Charlie because he was questioning the narrative on genocide in Gaza and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he has always been an ardent supporter of not only Trump, but Zionist kind of perspectives. And there were big donors that were pulling out because he was questioning that. And honestly, everybody in his age group, virtually everybody in his age group, has dropped dramatically their support of the modern state of Israel. But there's going to be Christians that come in if the Christian narrative is allowed to flourish. And so, people pull away and people come in, and I think they won't be left out in the dark and in the cold.
Hang tight, ladies and gentlemen. When we get back, we'll talk about the Q&A on the Constitution that took place last night. Details in seconds.
Isn't this great? Just the two of us. No work, no interruptions, no phone, no TV. Finally, we have a chance to just talk. I mean, how long has it been? Well, first of all, we should talk about your schedule. There are a few things that could use some adjusting, but overall, I think it's going all right. Basically, I think we're doing a pretty good job of communicating, which is good. You're doing a really good job of letting me know how you feel about things. I want to keep the lines open, if you know what I mean.
Jerry? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing?
Oh, I was just giving Emily a bottle.
Who are you talking to?
Emily.
She's only 3 weeks old, and she's asleep.
I know. I was just practicing.
Family. Isn't it about time?
Isn't this great? Just the three of us. No work, no interruptions, no phone.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
All right, Dr. Scott Bradley with me, ladies and gentlemen. freedomsrisingsun.com is website. Q&A's on the Constitution every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Go to freedomsrisingsun.com and get your invite to the weekly Thursday night webinars. If not, you can check them out. Freedom's Call on Rumble and BitChute and just about everywhere else. Look for it, ladies and gentlemen. It's there. So, Dr. Bradley, what happened on the webinar first? How many stories of the webinar did you cover that we already talked about?
Well, most of the stuff is different, honestly.
Interesting. Okay.
And in the few minutes we got left, I mean, we can't even cover one topic in the time we did last night. But so I'll hit you a couple of things. You don't need to respond and just listen through. We'll listen to all 8. You might find one of them.
All right, here we go.
Toward the end. Okay. So the United Nations Global Tax on Global Shipping. Okay, that was one item.
Disaster.
The big stir that's happening.
Constitutionally wrong. Shut it down now.
Wait, Sam. Next. We're not going to cover any of these things if you answer every one of them as we go. Holy cow.
My 10 seconds that tells you where we stand, right?
I know.
All right, number 2.
Okay, the East Wing's demolished for a big ballroom, and there's a big stir with different people that have.
And here's my response: when you're 38+ trillion in debt, it ain't time to build a ballroom. People, stop it.
They're doing it under private funding, by the way. $250 million of it, and I think Trump's going to put some of his own bucks into it.
All right, well,
but you compare that to Obama during $376 million on a White House grounds project when he was in. I mean, holy cow! Anyway, there's a stir among the political world. The third one was an update on the shutdown and how it's affecting regular people. I mean, not just government workers, and it does have
all by design. Yeah,
sure, makes everybody painful. The Supreme Court is now involved in a case that's going to look at social engineering regarding redistricting and how do they. Since 1965 in the Voter Act, the redistricting.
Why do we have the district at all? Why don't we just jettison parties and we don't need the district? You just vote.
Well, and that's certainly true, but you do. I mean, they do determine House of Representatives based upon population. And so,
no, I get it, but the districting relates to who gets in what districts to further partisan politics. That's all the redistricting does. Otherwise, you just simply have a precinct and they vote for whoever they want to.
You're absolutely right. The partisan politics things into, but the color issue has been a big issue. Racially districting things. The Constitution is colorblind, and I just am appalled that we've let it go to this point, where everybody thinks that you got to go by the color of your skin, which is absolutely absurd. It's a social engineering thing. Number 5 was the Supreme Court is going to weigh in about if you use cannabis. They call it marijuana, but that's a pejorative term, and we could go into where that came from. Where if you use cannabis, can you have a firearm? And honestly, 50% of the states have said cannabis is legal for recreational use, but the federal laws, it's Schedule 1 kind of thing. If you say yes on the paperwork that you use cannabis, you can't have a gun. And the lower courts are saying it violates the Second Amendment. And the Fifth Circuit Court has now ruled on it and said, yeah, it violates the Second Amendment. And it's going to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Because people cannot have firearms if they are a user of cannabis.
And I think that's wrong. The First or the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about whether you're on cannabis or not.
Well, but that's what the courts are saying. If
I understand, yeah.
So anyway, it's going to be at early 2026. I think there's going to be a ruling. It could be groundbreaking and earth-shaking, and ultimately may result in cannabis being taken off the Schedule 1 because the courts are, I think, likely with the current makeup of the Supreme Court, it's going to be something that is going to be a pretty big modification. We could talk about that at length too.
Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line though is, folks, I think the government has no authority relating to cannabis at all whatsoever.
Well, you're right. And most of the bad stuff that's out there, we're going to take a second on this, I guess, since we're kind of pushing on. Second Amendment's always a big issue for people. Alcohol has been a kind of I don't know what you'd call it, an icon or a central theme of the military. I mean, alcohol military stuff is kind of steeped in alcohol. Now, I was kind of in a transitional generation. I was in more than 55 years ago, and so alcohol was still there big time. One of my COs was a World War II vet. And some of the guys I worked with had other lower ranks than that. But at any rate, so their generation was steeped in alcohol. And the new generation coming in was picking up with some of the drug culture, with the hippie time and all that kind of good stuff. At any rate, personal observation, not from any personal experience. Trust me, Sam, you don't have to doubt anything about me becoming a user. But I watched the people that coped with PTSD type things. How did you digest some of the stuff that happens in a military environment and those that used alcohol versus those that used cannabis? My personal observation, all it is a personal observation. The cannabis had a better outcome and the alcohol destroyed more and more and more over time. But
the problem is the government, at least at the general level, shouldn't have authority over alcohol or over cannabis or anything else for that matter.
Absolutely right. But here's the problem.
FDA, shut it down, Donald.
The big pharma, the Rockefellers of the world before the 1930s, cannabis was a medicinal herb that was used for a wide variety of purposes.
And rightly so.
The bad stuff that gets people quote unquote addicted has been laced into it normally to get you into bigger stuff. I mean, and it's a
Right.
long discussion.
It's a long deal. Bottom line, though, is we're just telling you the government needs to get out of it. The sooner the better.
Right.
Next.
We did talk a little bit about the No Kings demonstration that you asked about earlier.
Yeah.
Florida, the next one was Florida's apparently, I'm trying to read the question here, in the process of eliminating government mandates for vaccinations. And we talked about that, and I think some of that is being done administratively in the executive branch, and then the legislature is going to have to be involved. I think that the mandates by government and everything like that need to be, get them out of that business of compulsion, free will, choice and accountability. I think that's God's plan. And one of the things that got kind of rolled in with that, though, was it's kind of an interesting side trip. In Florida, they're releasing these genetically modified mosquitoes. And I'm saying, you dink around with that. What else are you churning up? You know, where's the problem here, kids?
It's mad scientist. It's not scientific. It's psychotic. It's dangerous. And really, the United States, in bed with the communist Chinese, with playing with these viruses, are what caused COVID in the first place. The evidence is out. The problem is we'll never really get to the bottom of it in terms of accountability, because I don't think the Republicans care. They're too busy saying you ought to fund my plan to keep government open. Let's build big, beautiful buildings. Let's run around and do this. Let's do that. Let's get a big ballroom in the White House. And they're all derailed by things that, in my mind, are irrelevant at this time.
It's bread and circuses. And the final one, and you may want to go back to any of them in the 5 minutes approximately we got left, but the final one was applying baseline principles to restore what we've lost. And that's where I think there's a real, it's a secret almost, the secret sauce that'll bring back this nation. It already exists.
It's the secret sauce in plain sight, Doctor.
It is. We've got 250 years of experience on this thing, and people are just saying, no, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to try my new formula, and it's genetically modified mosquitoes, and it's gain of function things on diseases. I mean, it's bread and circuses. It really is. But those were the 8 things that came up last night. And again, if you want to go back, and we could give more detail, but we've kind of used up a lot of our time that we had. 2 hours goes by so fast. I can't hardly believe it.
Yeah, and I think we really covered a lot of good topics for today, though. We've highlighted what's right and wrong in the proper role of limited government. We've explained to people what government authority is and not, and go read your constitutions. And, we've kind of highlighted, in my mind, some real key things in America that matter. If Charlie Kirk's life can be used, or God can use his life and his passing away for God's purposes, then we can use that in our lives. And that's really, in my mind, the biggest takeaway for us all on this thing, is that's what we need to do, right?
Well, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a Charlie Kirk based solution, although he was, I think, trying to turn people to God and the baseline principles. What are we doing with our lives? I mean, it's one of those things where you and I each are accountable for our own lives in the eyes of God. And I think that a lot of times we say, oh, I'm not a Charlie Kirk, or I'm not a Donald Trump, or I'm not a Nancy Pelosi, whatever.
I'm a Sam Bushman, though, buddy.
Yeah, you are, and you make.
And I'm important, not because I'm a rock star, that I'm more important than anybody else, but we need to realize that we have a godly and American heritage, and that is something to celebrate, something to be grateful for, and something to say and to ponder on and say, I've been blessed with so much. That means I have tremendous responsibility as well.
Well, turn
Final
your
word to
life
you, Doctor.
Turn your life back over to the Savior. Not back over. You maybe never had it there before, but I think if we have a Christ-centered life, I think that a lot of things will turn out better for not only ourselves, but our whole nation. It's a kind of a cumulative kind of thing.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Dr. Bradley's weekly webinars available at freedomsrisingsun.com. You can sign up and get an invite. Otherwise, you can watch them later on BitChute and everywhere else. Look for Freedom's Call. But if you go to freedomsrisingsun.com, you can also check out his collegiate series, To Preserve the Nation. It's an incredible lecture and DVD and series with a booklet to help you learn the proper role of constitutional government, the moral cause, all about God, family, country. Let's say it that way. It is a faith-filled, freedom-loving, fantastic Friday, so have a delightful weekend full of God, family, and country, will you? For Dr. Bradley and Sam Bushman, God save our republic.